From Bitcoin, blockchain or distributed ledger technology to cryptocurrencies, tokens and initial coin offerings. It seems everyone involved has something to say, but can you really trust their advice? One man's had enough of weasel words and charlatans and is ready to give you impartial, independent analysis. With digestible blockchain bites, ICO analysis and need-to-know news on cryptocurrencies, author, speaker, transparency and clarity advocate and award-winning software innovator Barry James brings you Radio ICO.
So this is Barry James again for ICO Radio Blockchain Bites, and I've spent today with FinTechWorld up in level 39 chairing the 2020 FinTech conference, and I've got with me one of the presenters, one of the star presenters from today from ICOBox. It's Mike Raitsyn.
Hi guys, nice to meet you.
It's good to have you. So Mike, would you just start off, I ask all my guests, just tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of maybe move on to, how you got here and what, what ICOBox is and where it came from. But we'll come to that.
Right, sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been investing and launching startups for the last 15 years. So mostly in fintech and edtech. I'm originally from Ukraine, but a couple of years ago I moved to London. As a business angel, I invested in more than 20 projects, and I was fascinated with an idea of ICOs, community-driven crowd sale without any problems with conventional VC fundraising. So last year, we teamed up with other prominent guys like Nicky Blakimov and Anar Babayev. They're also from edtech. And we created an ICOBox company with a name to cover the gap between DIY platforms with big scalability but low functionality, and turnkey solution companies, boutique companies that help to launch in ICOs, but they only had capacity for 1 or 2 projects a month. So our idea was to create a service that is scalable enough to run tens and dozens of ICOs at the same time. That's why we created ICOBox. So we did our own ICO back in August 2016. We raised about 16 million then. Since then, we've had more than 20 clients that have finished their token sales. We helped them to raise 400 mils. We have more than 80 clients in pipeline already, so we're doing pretty well. Okay,
so just to go back a little bit, about how you got into ICOs, a bit more about that perhaps, and why do you think they're a good thing?
Well, I think the first ICO I've invested was Gigawatt. Yeah, it was a mining facility in US. Actually, notorious one because they delayed the delivery of their tokens and their functionality for like a couple of months. I had very good experience with Storage, one of the first ICOs in the middle of last year. Really good performance, really liked the idea of the project and liked the team. And what was the second part of the question?
Why do you think they're a good... you clearly do think they're a good thing.
Yes.
Why do you think they're a good thing?
Well, look, I've been in VC for a couple of years, and from my perspective, venture capital market is broken.
Yeah.
Because if you have a really good idea, prominent team, the only thing that VC will ask from you is attraction. Show us numbers, show us acquisition cost, so show us growth, hockey stick growth. They're pushing you too much, and you can't really focus on your values, your core values of your product, on your community. The only thing they need from you is sales.
Yeah.
And ICOs is a very different thing. It's a community-driven crowdfunding. So what you do, you build and address the community. You tell them your story, your vision of the world. And if they believe in it, they can support you directly without any intermediaries, banks, VC funds, nothing. Mm-hmm. Just direct communication between seller and buyer. Well, it's a beauty. You don't need to give up equity. You don't need to go through this ridiculous process of negotiating the price, valuation. You don't need to raise extra round in a couple of months or years. Nobody urges you to create an exit event because they have an immediate liquidity event after you list your tokens on an exchange, or even if you don't, they have decentralized exchanges where they trade the tokens directly with each other. It's brilliant.
So one or two of the speakers today were saying, look, very soon this will go away because all tokens will be equity tokens, and there's nothing new under the sun. What do you think? Do you agree with that?
Well, the problem with ICO market is too much hype being pushed in this market in a very short period of time. So current valuation of cryptocurrency world of ICOs it's
high.
You can say this. So it's a bit high, and we are about to have a major correction. Of course, we already had a major correction, about 70 to 80% from the high of the haze, but I think we'll see more. And it's very positive to market because if you have a look, for example, at dot-com crisis.
Yeah.
So everybody was launching an internet business, and there were a lot of really shady and obscure projects. And if you invested in like pets.com, well, you probably will get nothing.
Yeah.
But if you invested in Amazon, a ridiculous idea to sell books through internet. Why? Who will buy books via internet? But look at the Amazon now. The same will happen with ICO market. Yes, 80% of projects will fail. 90 of them. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The 5-10% that will survive, they will create an amazing, beautiful world. An example for future projects.
Yeah. An interesting question is how you value these entities, these companies. I remember, if you'll forgive me for a moment, talking to some people, or quite a lot of people, back when Facebook were first trying to value themselves and the float and the controversy over the seemingly astronomical numbers that they've since justified, in spades. Based, actually, the only way you can really see that is the way I said it should be based at the time. I said they were probably undervalued on the basis of their network. Do you see any way of, understanding the value of these entities on the basis of network?
Oh, interesting question. Good example with Facebook, by the way. It stayed under IPO price, for a very long time before rocketing to the moon. Currently the market cap and valuation of tokens is a bit ridiculous. It has zero sense because nobody understands how exactly to value these tokens. Even if you have a look on the Ethereum network, for example, the price of Ethereum is 400, but the actual demand for Ethereum and the actual use of the tokens is much lower. So again, it's people's expectation. It's like with Amazon. Amazon is not profitable for like 20 years, but still it's one of the highest, biggest company capitalization-wise.
Yeah.
So yes, network is crucial. The more community, the bigger community, the more people are involved, developers, entrepreneurs in the project, the better. And of course, everyone is looking into projects that will, lead this community to catch the flag and say, we are the next Bitcoin, we are the next Ether.
Yeah. So one question you were asked earlier on today. You may give the same answer or you might change it, who knows, is, can you do an ICO with any business idea?
Well, good...
I'm not inviting you to change it. It was a really good answer.
That's on ICO of ICO Radio, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the good criteria is to try to imagine, will you be able to run a Kickstarter campaign for your business? Really? If yes, then possibly you could consider running a token sale. If not, you can. You should look into security token offerings, a more conventional approach to raise funds. So stay away from ICO if you're not in blockchain area. Stay away from ICO if you don't understand it's about community, not about money. And don't turn yourself into a scam. Yeah,
I mean one observation that we have from our experience is, Kickstarter and reward crowdfunding, seed crowdfunding, as we like to call it, the sweet spot is really products, but actually in ICOs it tends to be services. Do you see that?
Well, currently yes, but I mean, it's a very early stage of development. We'll see more and more projects create, for example, non-fungible assets. First, it's only games like CryptoKitties. there is one interesting project is actually tokenizing diamonds. They create a digital diamond with all its features, where it comes from, is from sustainable mining, what is his history, its current price, current owner. So basically you can own any asset like a diamond without requirement to actually store this diamond in a safe or be worried about it being stolen. Really interesting approach. So yeah, I think we'll see more and more new decentralized applications, a project that using blockchain not only for issuing utility tokens but for actually creating some kind of services and addressing users to use this on the blockchain.
Okay, so if I was a listener and curious about this, either because I had an existing business or because I've got an idea or a startup, where should I start? Who should I talk to? What things should I consider?
Well, first of all, again, you need to understand, do you actually need a blockchain, a DLT in your project? So do you have a database? Do you have multiple independent writers who don't trust each other and you don't trust them? Do you want publicity so anyone will be able to verify their records, or you don't want it? Can you rely on a trusted third party to verify the records? If not, if you have multiple writers, you don't have a trusted third party, and you want some kind of public verification, then you may consider using a blockchain in your business. Then, if you have a blockchain reasonably implemented in your business routine, then you may consider running a token sale to raise funds to scale up your business. But again, there are very different approaches. You can raise funds through ICO, offering tokens for community. You can go to funds and family offices and ask them for hybrid deals, selling you equity and giving them tokens for free or with a great discount. You can airdrop your tokens for a core audience, for your supporters for free, basically, and then listing and selling your tokens on the cryptocurrency exchange. Many options. You can even fork an existing blockchain with open source code and use it for your own goals, like Ethereum for Thick Deed, like Bitcoin Cash appeared. So many different approaches.
So an airdrop, we should watch out for those. That's like free money, right?
Well, the 2017 was a year of forks. Yes, we had Bitcoin Cash, we had Bitcoin Gold, we had Bitcoin Silver, Diamond, and so on. I think every young developer wanted to create their own Bitcoin. I think it will end soon because there is no demand for such amount of different Bitcoins, Ethereums, and only the strongest will survive.
Okay. So tell us a little about ICOBox, who's it for, and how does it work, and do I need a mountain of money to be able to use ICOBox, or well, it's a slightly loaded question because I kind of half know the answer to that.
Well, ICOBox, as I mentioned before, is a very scalable solution and very flexible solution for conducting token sale. We offer everything from technical side, smart contracts, smart contract management system, book building platform with accepting 70 major cryptocurrencies, fiat money, credit card payments, QAC and AML checks, verified investors checks. We have a multi-level affiliate program and many other features. We do PR and marketing. It's like a conventional PR and marketing, but it's with focus on blockchain and crypto media. We make sure that you won't waste your money because we know returns on every major source of traffic and PR. We also help with development, we help with roadshows, we make introductions, we do a lot of stuff. And yes, services are expensive because you must know that you're competing with hundreds of different ICOs. And the biggest part of them are, let's say it, not really transparent and maybe not legitimate. And they don't mind putting $1 in advertising and getting $1.20 in return. The JIT project can't allow itself such numbers.
Yeah.
You can't pay 80% for advertising
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the proceeds. It's ridiculous. We have an opportunity for good projects to get our services basically without any upfront payment, but paying with their tokens afterwards. The only thing they need to do is to have a good community, to engage our ICOs, ICOBox community, and to convince them that they have a great potential.
Yeah.
So basically they will fund all the services you need, and you'll only pay with tokens.
Well, I tell you what, when we started it was quite quiet, and we're up on level 39, and the party is starting behind us. But before we go, what are the other things that we should know about ICOBox and about ICOs before we close off the interview?
But about ICOs, we'll have a very interesting market this year, I think. We'll see a lot more of security token offerings. We'll see a lot more of hybrid token offerings, combining securities and utilities. We'll see a lot of legal battles, subpoenas issued to different ICOs. We'll see somebody getting into jail, probably. I mean, market needs some cleaning, and we'll see this year. About ICOBox, well, we're a good company. We're always hiring. We're a team of 170 people spread all over the world.
Wow.
And we are always in the process of looking for new talents. And please don't hesitate to address us. Don't hesitate to reach us via Telegram, via email. We are really flexible. We're really friendly and open for everyone.
Okay, and how do people best reach you?
Sorry?
How do people best reach you? How do they contact you?
The easiest way is to fill a contact form on our website, or just engage in our Telegram channel and ask someone to get in touch with you.
So, Mike Raitsyn, ICOBox, it's been a pleasure to hear from you today, and thank you for your time. I think it's time we went to join the party.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Have a very good day.
You too. Okay, so this is Barry James again for ICO Radio for the Blockchain Bytes program. And as you know right now, we've just finished the FinTech World 2020 FinTech Conference in London at level 39. And I've got with me right now both Maomao Hu, who listeners have met before, from Kora.
Hi, Barry. How you doing?
Good. Thank you. We'll talk some more in a moment. But also, for the first time, the organizer of the conference and owner of FinTechWorld, and a good friend of mine, Sydney Armarni.
Well, good to be here, Barry, and thanks for having me.
It's okay. So one of the highlights yesterday was, as usual, from our friends at Kora, who were speaking, but we'll talk more about that in a moment or two. But for you, Sydney, what would you say were the highlights from yesterday?
Well, first of all, thanks for chairing the event yesterday. You know, you were one of our good MC. We call it MC in America. You guys call it the chair.
Yeah.
And so it's MC chair. Thank you very much. It was a great event. We had good sponsors. You know, we had the great speakers. And from all kind of ICO world and also blockchain. So It was very good and it was very informative. And as you know, FinTechWorld has been around the last 5-6 years. We're into our 6 years, and we do conferences in Silicon Valley. You know, for the last 6 years, you come the first one in 2013.
Absolutely,
and
I remember.
Exactly. You came over there, and then we do in Washington D.C. In the 5th year under the Crowdfunding USA. In New York City, you know, and also we do it in Los Angeles. So we are a media company, as you know, but we do these conferences to create content. It's free content. You go to the FinTechWorld.com and you get the copy of those conference and also written material, some of the article from the expert in the industry, lawyers, all the fact of the industry. So it's a very informative. There's no charge. You go to this to this site and look at it, get more of education. Yeah. We have report from PwC, we have report from Capgemini, so it's very informative in a way, and we're very proud of it.
Great, and one of the highlights from yesterday afternoon for me was the panel later on in the day, towards the end of the day, where you grilled some of our friends from various ICOs. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's not, we're very transparent. That's why I like about this blockchain and the whole thing is all about transparency. You got to show what you do. You got to be, you got to say who you are. So, we want to be very straightforward, especially with our investor education. As you know, we're not, endorsing any kind of ICOs, anything. We're just informative. We create these events mostly for education because we're interested in finance and other part of it. But going back to that panel, I told them I'm going to ask some tough question. What are you guys going to be doing? What's the money for? Who the investors are? And some of these ICOs, in my personal, not opinion, they're legit ICOs. They are like startup. I see ICOs as a startup company that they're trying to raise money and they find ways, as entrepreneurs find ways to get the money for the startup and somehow. Give benefit to their investors. So but there is also there's some fraud there, and other thing as everything else. So everybody has to do their own, due diligence and find out who they are. They have to do that.
Yeah,
if anything you put over there, and that's very simple. The things over there. That's why.
And even in the room amongst people, a lot of money is being and has been raised. ICOBox, I think, told us it was well over 400 million that they raised. It was quite a big figure from that whole panel. So it's a huge area. So they were for me also a highlight, along with Gibraltar Stock Exchange, who gave a fantastic presentation. So great to see the development happening in that way, but lots of other stuff. But Maomao, for you, apart from my talk, obviously, that goes without saying, But what were your impressions, and what stood out for you from the day?
Yeah, it was a really interesting day, especially going through the process myself, seeing other people's process. Obviously, Sydney and Mary's talks were great as always, as well as the part that was kind of most interesting to me is that for a long time we've always been a little bit just kind of mystified, and it seems like the industry it's kind of like an emperor's had no clothes kind of moment where everyone's making up these token models and saying that they're going to work and they're going to appreciate. And people are buying them, quite literally buying them. Especially last year when you could raise crazy amounts of money with white paper, as they say. And it seemed to me that today that it was kind of a microcosm of how the industry was kind of coming to its senses, where people are getting subpoenas, where these token models people are working through them and seeing that they're a little bit dubious, where a lot of the ICOs last year have failed. And where there are just higher requirements from transparency and from quality from the community now. And that was really nice to see. And it was obviously, you don't see that at every conference. You see them at only places where pretty curated. Otherwise, especially in a tough market like this, everyone's just dropping money to get sponsorships and keynote speeches. And obviously not something that happens at FinTechWorld. So it was a really great time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I say, as you know, we love all around the world, but we always find a good, financial interest. We know London is one of the financial capital of Europe, or New York is. So when we come here, and especially in level 39 here in Canary Wharf, it's a fintech capital in the world, and they do all these accelerators, all these incubators. It's very interesting to be there, and we have to kind of say about these fintech companies, as we know that the banks are taking notice about these fintech companies with the world of mobile app payments over there. So it's very, very interesting, and a lot of innovative stuff happening. It's not about only crypto money. Is a lot of innovation. We had companies that they come up with quite a bit of equipment actually. What it will be for safety of your money and other things. So it's more than Bitcoin. And I say but as you know, we both talk about the blockchain. Blockchain is the next big thing in Silicon Valley and all around the world. So we talk about that. You talk about that. So it was very good, and I like that about this.
Yeah, one particularly interesting thing from my point of view is, I mean, we did have various people who are, kind of struggling to understand how ICOs are and trying to see them through the lens of an IPO, which just really doesn't work. They're much more like crowd funds with liquidity and times 1,000. But one of the things that did come out, even from some of the people steeped in the older markets, is the failure of those markets to reach out to the generations to come, to the millennials and so on, and a realization that this is them being leapfrogged to an extent. Another point which stuck in my mind was, because I think it's a really important one, Maomao, was you mentioned about the process and how this is a really accelerated process for you and your team. Would you tell the listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one thing I said on camera, on the record with Sydney, was that I think everyone should do an ICO. Obviously, not one of these ridiculous ones that float around. It's just a simple equity in your LLC, but it's great because it really puts you through the ringer, and you really have to kind of develop your value proposition. You get it very thoroughly reviewed by people all over the world. It's a great way to connect to global markets and to raise small amounts of capital that can last you for quite some time. And so I think the ICO process was very beneficial to us from a business perspective, and leaving all the fundraising part aside. And so I do think it can be a very positive process. But you just have to, like pretty much everything in life, it just has to be done the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you're having considerable success. So I know you've come a very long way from when we were last time. Are we able to mention the figures?
Sure. Yeah. So Kora is doing an ICO. We're doing 24 million hard cap, and we just closed 4 million pre-sale.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so final question for now is, my theme for the day was that it's now beyond doubt that this is a new dawn, that we're entering the era of the token, and it's going to change things. It's going to change things radically, and probably at least as fundamentally, probably more fundamentally than the internet did. So that was my theme for the day, and I think by the end of today, we there are lots of different visions of that in the room. But I think there was a clear consensus that this is something that's really, really huge. I mean, what would be your takeaways from the day? Let's start with you, Maomao.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's clear that traditional fundraising is changing. And one other thing I said at the panel was that maybe the most interesting thing about blockchain is its ability to connect people, specifically connecting people to global markets, which is basically what crowdfunding is. It's really just raising a ton of money from Asia for a lot of European and American startups. And I think, globalization changed the world radically only 20, 30 years ago. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens this time around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Barry, I live in Silicon Valley for years, and I travel around, and everybody introduced me as a man from Silicon Valley. And my pitch is Silicon Valley is everywhere. Now, with this new vehicle that everybody doesn't need to come to expensive places like to Silicon Valley, look for VCs, and even Tim Draper in some of these conferences that he come to our conferences, he said that's how you find entrepreneurs everywhere accessing to VC on the blockchain. That's what's happening right now. They don't need to go probably somebody with a great idea in somewhere in small town in Europe or in America. It doesn't matter where they are, in Africa, but they're in Asia for that matter. They have an entrepreneur dream. They have a real products. As Maomao mentioned, his company, the real concept, real innovation that they have, and then they can basically go out there, present themselves around the world, and that's the vehicle that's happening, and that's what's very exciting in the new generation. I'm happy about that, but I'm also happy about your products that you're working on. I think it's a great idea that you're doing, and you're going to implement it. Is token intelligence, because you need to know what's going on about this thing before you do a 1 penny investment. As an average person out there, you need to do your own study. You need to know what's going on, and perhaps you have a dream of having your own company or a small little investment or a small little innovation or company, this is the way to do it. I think this is a great exciting. That's what I'm excited especially.
Thank you, Sydney. Yes, folks got a sneak peek of the future of token intelligence there yesterday as well. Yeah, watch out for that. That's coming soon. But by the end of the day, I mean, I've still got emails coming in and people thanking us all for the contributions. It was the buzz was palpable. Great day. I can't wait for the next one.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
ICO Radio was brought to you by author, speaker, transparency and clarity advocate, and award-winning software innovator Barry James. Get in touch with the programme, put yourself or someone else forward as a guest. Visit iconewsdesk.com. And if you've enjoyed the show, please leave a review. And don't forget to subscribe to get your next insights and interviews from the ICO Radio podcast.